Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Walker, and I'm here in my classroom because I'm a teacher in Bay City. I was scheduled to be with you tonight to talk about vaccines and to have this great conversation sitting at the table with all of you. And unfortunately, something came up, so Erin asked me to record a video on my thoughts anyway. So I'm excited to have my voice in the space, although I would love to hear yours as well. I hope that you've had a wonderful time so far. And I'm going to tell you about my journey and evolution in thinking when it comes to vaccinations. So when I was growing up, there wasn't really much talk about vaccines in my household. We got vaccines, but I don't really recall getting the annual flu shot or anything like that. The year that I got chickenpox is the year that the chickenpox vaccine came out. I actually think it came out the same month that I got it. So it probably just wasn't available to me yet. So I got chickenpox. Not looking forward to getting shingles one day, but is what it is. So that it was just not ever a topic of conversation. It wasn't something that my parents felt strongly about either way. So I became pregnant when I was 18 years old, and I had my son when I was 19. And during that time, he was born in 2008, there was a huge conversation surrounding how vaccines cause autism. And Jenny McCarthy was really pushing this narrative at the time. Her son, she believes his autism originated from the MMR vaccine, which is the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, if I'm recalling correctly. But I believe that's the vaccine that she used as, or like cited as her, or as the catalyst for her son getting diagnosed with autism and showing these symptoms that he hadn't shown before. So this was really freaking me out as a new mom. I'm a teenager. I don't know anything about being a parent. I don't really know anything about vaccines, but I'm worried that my choice to vaccinate my child might produce negative outcomes. Now, I do want to say a little disclaimer. I don't think that being on the spectrum is something that's negative. I don't think that at all. But I was worried that my son would regress because what I was reading is that children would get this vaccine and then their ability to speak started to diminish. Their ability to do things like make eye contact started to diminish. And so I was worried that I would, in trying to keep him safe, inadvertently harm him. And I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe I could do a modified vaccine schedule. I thought maybe I just don't get him vaccinated. And then my other option was to get him fully vaccinated, and I just didn't know what to do. And luckily that semester I was a student at Delta College, and I had to write a research paper, and I thought, okay, let's do a research paper on if vaccines cause autism. And I thought this will be a great opportunity for me to learn and to get feedback from my instructor, because if I wasn't looking at the right sources, they would point me in a direction for, reputable sources. So as I was researching, I ended up reading Jenny McCarthy's book. I watched some interviews with her. I read several medical journal articles. Can't recall what they were at this point. And I ended up coming to the conclusion, in my opinion, that the benefits to vaccination outweighed the risks. I have already said that I don't think that having autism is something that is negative. Right? If a child is on the spectrum, it presents some different challenges, but I don't think it's a bad thing. But then when I was reading what could happen as a result of not vaccinating my child, that sounded worse to me. It sounded worse for them to get measles than to have autism. And also, there just wasn't any evidence that I could find at the time that showed that vaccines cause autism. So I did it. I got my son vaccinated, and I was really nervous. I was really, really, really nervous at the appointment. I took him. It was fine. And I watched him like a hawk for, well, he's 16 now and I still do. I feel like sometimes when I was like really watching for any signs of regression or any signs that he was on the spectrum at all. He wasn't, he didn't exhibit any of those symptoms. He's not on the spectrum. He is 16 years old and he's thriving. He's doing really great. So then as I was working my way through college, I decided to focus on education, became a teacher. I'm an elementary school teacher. If you couldn't tell with like my decor, I feel like it's very elementary vibes going on. So that just opened up a whole new perspective to me on vaccines because I had gone through the research. I had made my informed decision. But now I'm working with a classroom of anywhere from 18 to 30 students, depends on the year, who may or may not be vaccinated. And if you know anything about kids, you know that they're germ factories. Like I don't even know the illnesses that they get, where they come from. They can be really gross. I love them, but they can be gross. And so I started to see before COVID even hit, cold and flu season it's a thing. I usually got like a little cold in December. That's kind of like my schedule. Every year, December rolls around, I get a little bit of a cold. I lose my voice. I don't know what it is about losing my voice, December, that type of illness, whatever it is, but it happens to me every year. My students, I have watched influenza outbreaks. I've watched stomach bug, like rotavirus, norovirus go around. I've watched COVID hit my class. And it's really disruptive to education. And kids get sick and they spread it and it happens. But COVID was really interesting as an educator. There's a lot that I could talk about there that I won't. But one thing that was really interesting was the conversation around vaccines and around going back to school and if that's safe to do. And I think a lot of people were considering that COVID is not something to be extremely worried about in young children. And I think that was the main focus, and there wasn't a lot of focus on educators. I had friends who were going through treatment that made them immunocompromised. I had friends who had autoimmune disorders. I had friends with diabetes, friends who had recently recovered from cancer. And they were asked to go into these classrooms where they didn't feel safe because they were worried if they contracted the virus, the outcomes for them would be more negative than for someone like me who is privileged enough to be healthy, or my students who might get a little sniffle and then be totally fine. And so there wasn't a lot of conversation around those adults. And there was a lot of let's go back, without much consideration on how it's going to affect their health, especially being in a confined space with many children who, there's a lot of debate. There was a lot of debate around masking. Regardless of how you see that, they weren't worn properly by students because they're little. And so a lot of these teachers were really nervous about going back. And we did fully open once teachers were able to receive vaccines in the district that I'm in. We did some online, back in person, online, in person, online, in person. We went back and forth for a little while, but once teachers were able to get vaccinated, we did go back full time. Full disclosure, I got my COVID vaccine and I get it every year. I get my influenza shot every single year. Just because I watch how it tears through a classroom, and it is, when I say I have taught from a class of 25 down to 5 because of influenza, because of COVID, because of rotavirus, norovirus, I'm not kidding you. I have had classes of 5 students. And then the ones that weren't sick, they take turns, right? So then they'll flip flop. So then the ones that are healthy, they come back, and then the other ones are out sick. So it just really disrupts learning for a good solid month every year. And I don't want it to disrupt my family. I don't want to contract something that's going to make me sick, and then I have to take time off, and then I have to take time off because my kids ended up getting it. Luckily, I have not had COVID. I'm going to knock on wood somewhere. I haven't had COVID since 2020, that I know of. I have not had influenza since I decided to get the yearly influenza vaccine when I was about 23. I have not had any major illnesses in a while, which is great. I still get like a sniffle or a sore throat here and there. Um, but that's kind of been my journey from this vaccine skeptic who was really worried about the effects vaccines would have on my children to thinking that the trade-off of them not getting an illness that could severely harm or kill them, thinking that it's better to go with the vaccine than the disease. Um, and then seeing what I see as a teacher, just being, it's just interesting how families view vaccines, if they choose to vaccinate, if they don't, and then how that affects students in the classroom, how quickly illnesses can spread in the classroom, and how it can affect student learning. It can affect teacher attendance, because usually teachers are predominantly women with children, and their women are predominantly the caretakers of their children. So generally speaking, right, if a child is sick, mom's staying home. So, yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say, and I feel like I've talked for too long, but I hope this was enlightening in some way. I hope that you have a wonderful time. Like I said, I'm totally fine sharing my opinion. I want to hear other people's opinions though, because I don't judge anyone for not getting vaccinated. I get it because I was there. I was that person at one point. And I would like to hear your thoughts on it, but obviously that's not possible. So I hope you have a great night. Sorry I couldn't be there. And that's all.